Today on the Coaches Wild podcast. I'm not going to lie to you guys, I started this episode off real hot. I have a stutter, don't judge me, as well as I forgot the second part of the school's name, so there's that. But we have a very, very special guest today. We have a 3-time Mondat Coach of the Year, Region 13 Coach of the Year, and Northwest District Plains Coach of the Year. He has an overall record of 94-27, and he's currently 24-4, guiding his team to the postseason. Today, we welcome Coach Kyle Kuether to the Coaches Wild podcast.
With the world of coaching evolving and the carousel always changing, we're going to sit down with some coaches and we're going to figure out what they coach, how they coach, and most importantly, why they got into this profession. My name is Kason Wilkinson, and I am your host of the Coaches Why podcast.
That was my Coaches Why.
Welcome back, everybody, to another Coaches Why podcast. Thank you guys for showing up today. Today, we have a very special guest, our very first non-wrestling, football, or baseball coach. We actually have Bismarck Community College's Kyle Kuether coming in from all the way up in North Dakota. Coach, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Bismarck State College is the name.
Bismarck State College.
No worries.
He's their volleyball coach up there. I'm really looking forward to this episode. You know, not only have some new fresh air when it comes to the coaches that are going to be popping on here, but you know, I really think he's going to be able to tell a really cool story of kind of breaking down what I got to see when I read a little bit about him. So, Coach, thank you for jumping on. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, sure.
And before we kind of get started, talking a little bit about your coaching journey. I really want to talk to you a little bit about who you are as a person, where you grew up, when did you kind of get involved in your sport of volleyball, and just kind of give us a little bit of a background about yourself, sir.
Yeah, so I'm from Bismarck. I went to school at BSC here. After I did 2 years here, I transferred to NDSU, got my degree in sports management. Moved back here after school. Just kind of stumbled into coaching. Coaching was never really like a goal of mine, I guess, or even, especially coaching at the college level, never really a goal. It was just kind of like doors that kind of kept opening up. And, you know, I'm kind of a big, my faith is really big. Wherever God leads you, I kind of just go with the flow and got me here. So really, was not my, it was not my path. It was kind of just, God's path for me. And I kind of just kept walking.
Yeah, no. Hey, sometimes you got to take those opportunities. So like with the sport that you're in right now, was that something that you were like involved in previously, or was that just like an opportunity came where like they needed a volleyball coach and it just kind of transpired, kind of worked itself out to where it got to where you're at now?
Yeah, kind of a little bit of both. When I was at NDSU, I was involved, or I was pursuing a coaching minor. Nowadays you really don't need any type of coaching certification to coach in North Dakota, but at that point, I thought it was kind of something that I was interested in. So really pursued that. And my senior year had the opportunity to do like a coaching practicum. And, you kind of meet with your advisor and you talk about like what sport you want to get involved with. My sport growing up that I really loved was baseball. And then obviously just kind of watching football and, really knew a lot about football. And so I kind of wanted to just get out of my comfort zone a little bit. And, I had played volleyball before, just rec leagues, intramurals, stuff like that. And I just thought, maybe learning a little bit more about volleyball would be fun. And that's kind of how it got started. I really kind of went in with no real knowledge of, like more than just bump set spike. Right. So, really kind of had an opportunity to spend 3 months with one of the best coaches I've worked with, Melissa Wilson. She's in Minnesota right now, but she was at Fargo North in North Dakota. And so got a chance to work with her for 3 months and just kind of was a sponge, tried to absorb as much as I could. And that was that. Cool experience.
Yeah, for sure. what do you think? I know you said that you kind of grew up with, baseball was your sport and things like that, and I know you just kind of fell into it because of the, like you said, wanted to kind of get out of your comfort zone, things like that. But whenever you were taking that, whenever you were doing your college and you're doing your minor and all that stuff, what sport was on your mind the most? What was your intention when you went into that program that you wanted to be a part of afterwards?
That was another thing. I really didn't have like a set sport. I was just really doing it just kind of learn a little bit more. Like the coaching minor had a bunch of, nutrition type fitness classes involved with it. It had some officiating classes involved with it. It had some coaching, some playing classes. So really I was just kind of into it just to get some more knowledge, just some general knowledge.
Okay.
I remember I took like a dodgeball class when I was at NDSU. So,
Oh yeah. Okay.
kinda,
You can dodge a
kinda,
wrench, you can dodge a ball.
yeah, kind of just something fun like that. So really there was no like, I'm using this so I can go coach after school. It was really more like, I want to kind of get this just to kind of broaden my own knowledge, I guess. I went to school for sports management.
Okay.
So really my goal was to work like, in the front office of, like a professional sports team or something like that. I mean,
Right.
everyone kind of has those big dreams. And then that really didn't work out when I moved back to Bismarck. We didn't really have a lot of opportunities here. So then I kind of found myself coaching. So
I got you. Okay. So I know you said that you grew up playing those things. Did you play, those sports through high school, or were those, playing baseball and some of that stuff, just kind of like rec? I know you said like you played volleyball, rec league and stuff, but did you play varsity sports when you got to high school?
no, so that's kind of something unique. I played up until like my freshman year, and then I mean, honestly, I don't know. I kind of just lost the drive a little bit.
Right.
I mean, looking back now, I mean, I don't really like to regret stuff, but I guess definitely looking back, it's definitely something I would have pushed myself a little bit harder to pursue.
Right.
Like I said, I kind of just lost that what passion or whatever it was for competitive sports, and then kind of just got it back when I was in college at a different phase. The coaching rather. I mean, I still go out. I play rec volleyball now. I used to play rec softball. Um, and I still get pretty competitive with it. But
So I know you said that, with you, that is very unique, by the way. There's a lot of college coaches who have that experience of high school sports or collegiate sports. But I know you said that, what was her name? You said that she's a coach out in Minnesota. Her name was
Melissa Wilson.
Melissa Wilson. Okay. So I like to ask this question and this is going to be a little bit different for you, because the question I like to ask is, was there ever a coach who made an impact on your life? And if so, why, and who? So even though I know you didn't really play those sports growing up, was she the most like influential person that you got to be around when it comes to like the coaching side of things, on the level of like being under somebody's wing? Or is there other coaches or another coach that you could say played a big role in, where you're at today?
Yeah. So I guess kind of a two-part for that is I think I definitely have a few, coaches in mind, some for good reasons and some for bad. I remember grade school basketball I had, I'll just say not the nicest coach. And I think that really influenced me to know that I definitely don't ever want to be like a coach that doesn't have a relationship with his players. I mean, even like, elementary is probably the most important to have relationships with, to get those kids to really like have fun in the sport. And I just remember like there was zero fun growing up playing basketball. And so that's probably why I never played basketball like past junior high. So I guess that's definitely one, like that's definitely influenced me to make sure that I'm not,
not that person.
Not that way. And, in high school, you always strive to not be your athlete's last coach, like you always want them to have a coach after you, or else that means they quit.
Yep.
Now it's a little different in college, because if they don't play after, that's just because they ran out of time. But, yeah, so I would say that's definitely a part of it. The other part is, I think just having almost, there's definitely coaches within the sports that that I've grown to take stuff from. One is John Hagerly. He coaches at the University of Jamestown, just down the road from us. But he's always just coached with such like grace for his players, and kind of just more of creating, or not creating, but cultivating like the person, not just the athlete, not just to win games, but so that the people are better people when they leave. So he's definitely one that I talk to a lot if I have ideas. Jenny Walsh, who was the coach at BSC before I came on, I used to talk to her a lot when I was coaching high school, just, for, what would you do in this situation? What would you do in this,
Right.
But I mean, volleyball is kind of different. And I know you said that I'm the first volleyball coach, but I don't know, just talking to other colleagues, I don't know if basketball or football are the same as volleyball, just because, you can have a super competitive match with another volleyball coach, but 2 days prior, you guys could, you could be talking about, how's your prep going? And there's genuine conversation between the two coaches, there's not like fibbing on an injury report to try and, fake someone out, I guess. So
there's no hostility between you guys.
Yeah, I think just the genuine, like, I don't know what it is with volleyball, but it's just like a genuine, like, we want to play the best. Like, we want you to be at your best. We don't want you to be hurt. We don't want your players to be out. We want to play you when you're the best. And I think that's kind of overall, I think that's what a lot of volleyball coaches look for. So I mean, even just, my colleagues, other coaches, other club coaches, elementary school coaches, I think all the coaches kind of rub off each other a little bit.
Yeah, that's interesting. I've never heard that, and I've had a few conversations with, of course, volleyball coaches, but I've never had, a deep conversation like this with them. And, you're right. You do see that a lot in other sports, like you said, football, baseball, basketball, things like that. I've talked to people just off the record about that, basketball coach down south here in New Mexico, and she's a female coach for a girls basketball team, and whenever she goes to this opposing, I guess it's like a rival or whatever, what you consider that. I guess you could say a rival.
Yeah.
He will do anything and everything to get her off her coaching game, whether pre-game, during game, whatever, to get in. And I'm assuming not only that coach's head, but if he does that to her, I'm assuming he does it to most other coaches too. And so, is there any sort of that bitterness that I know you said that most coaches like that, but have you ever faced a coach that, doesn't fit that norm of what you're saying kind of as a collective?
No, I mean, honestly, I really don't think so. There might be some like club coaches that I've coached against in the club scene, but usually those are like, the fresh, still in college coaches that really are kind of still in that player mentality almost, if you know what I mean. Like,
yep.
And with those coaches, you just kind of like, I mean, I'm sure I was there once, when I was just started coaching. But no, honestly, like, there's no coaches right now that I can think of that were hostile towards each other. We have our region tournament coming up this weekend, and I genuinely can't wait to see the other 5 coaches. I think there's just a genuine friendship. Or maybe I'm just naive. I don't know. Maybe they hate me. I don't know.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
I used to love when I coached high school going to the, like the high school coaches committee, or not committee, whatever, like the end of the season coaches meetings and stuff.
Yep.
I know some of those coaches like dreaded that day. I had fun with it. I enjoyed, talking to other coaches and stuff, and kind of, seeing what they're thinking, how their seasons are going, what they do in certain situations. So, and maybe that's just part of where I never played the sport. So I look for like, advice from others, or just kind of like what works for them, what doesn't work. That could be part of it too. But yeah, I genuinely love, talking to all the coaches that I coach against.
Yeah, no, I think it's also a personality thing too. In the sport of wrestling here, specifically here, there's a lot of coaches who are very, very social, who love talking to everybody, who will make friends with people, regardless of if they think, other people may think that, kind of like you, like I don't have any problems with any coaches. But then there's some coaches who have that mentality, like, they seclude themselves by ego or whatever it is, and they, have a lot of, not enemies, but haters, if you would, because of how they conduct themselves. So, and I think that's, I'm assuming that's across the board too, in certain states and certain sports and stuff like that. But I think it's a lot of that is just personality wise, because I'm the same way. When I'd go to the end of year clinic, or even we'd do the, we'd have like an NMAA, whatever your winter sport was. They'd have like a preseason clinic type of thing. You go down and be part of it. And I really enjoyed that. You got to talk to coaches on like a personal level before season, right? When you go to these tournaments, you might get to talk to them for X amount of time before the tournament, during it, whatever, but you never really get to just pick their brains as much as you'd like to. And maybe same way, maybe I didn't reach out enough doing that as much, but I think it is, a lot of that has to do with just personality, right? I mean, if you're just a nice, happy person, happy to be there, have that open mindset, that obviously goes a long way for what that interaction that you have too. So, it could be a mixture of both though, but I do think personality just plays a big factor when it comes to coaching.
Yeah, for sure.
So now that we've kind of talked a little bit about your, I guess, pre-college coaching life and a little bit about where you're from and all that stuff, I kind of want to dive into you as the coach. So kind of give us, or I guess kind of tell us a little bit about how long you've been coaching and what your timeline was. So kind of like where you started coaching and then how you got to Bismarck State right now. How'd you go from where you were to where you're at now?
Sure. Yeah. So I've coached first grade up to, junior college here. And actually, we just announced that we are stepping into the NAI next year. So
oh, sweet.
It'll kind of be
Heck
another little jump up. But yeah, my daughter is I have three kids. My oldest daughter is fifth grade, and then I have a second grader and another daughter that's 4. So I've coached my daughter since she was in first grade, and honestly, coaching first and second graders is more work than coaching college. It is something else. An hour with first and second graders is nothing compared to like an hour with college kids. But yeah, so I've coached all the way elementary up to college. I really started, I would say, like after graduating from NDSU, and it just started with a phone call. Someone called me and said, "Hey, we need a 8th grade coach," or I can't remember, 7th or 8th grade, a middle school coach at St. Mary's, which is one of the private schools in Bismarck here. And I said, "Well, how long is the season? 8 weeks? Okay, yeah, sure, I'll do it." So that was awesome. That was kind of like my first, solo gig, I guess. After that, I did that for a couple of years. After that, the freshman position at the high school, St. Mary's High School, came up, and someone told me like, "Hey, you should apply for this." So got freshman coaching. I think the very next year, actually, then the JV coach opened up, and the varsity coach actually reached out to me and asked if I wanted to apply for the JV. So I did that, got that. The head coach ended up resigning a couple years later. So I applied for the head coaching, got that. So I coached high school for 5 years. And then the position here opened up, and there was a couple coaches in the community that were really pushing me to apply for this one. And I had no idea what I was doing. I told them, I said, "I have no idea how to recruit. I have no idea, I don't know how to coach college." And of course, just the community around here, "Oh, you'll be fine. It's easy. It's not as much work as you think," which that was a complete lie, because it's a lot of work. But yeah, recruiting has turned out to be one of the best parts of the job, just kind of getting to know some of the players and their families, and really just picking your team, picking the culture you want to have here. So yeah, started in middle school, and kind of worked up here in the matter of, let's see, I've been coaching, oh gosh, this is my 16th year, I think, coming from that middle school, that first year of middle school. So yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. I'm glad you brought up the recruiting side of it because, I've picked some brains of some other coaches on this podcast before, and, they've kind of dove into how they go about recruiting and similar things, right? Like they love the idea that they can pick and choose what they want their team to be longevity wise and culture wise. But how do you feel, when you first started, I guess when you got this job and you started recruiting, how's it transition from when you first started to now? Like comfort levels, difficulties, what were some of the things that, I know you said you enjoy it now, but why do you enjoy it now? And what are some of the things that you've noticed and had to overcome from the start to 5 years in?
Oh man, you don't know the can of worms you just opened. So that's a funny question because my very first year that we had to recruit was the COVID year. So
Okay.
it was extremely difficult. First of all, I had no idea like how to even contact kids. I'm like, do I call them? Do I write them a letter? I had no idea. So
Right.
that plus the fact that you couldn't go to games, it was frowned upon really to like try and meet with someone. It was extremely difficult. So the first year we had 11 girls on our roster, and we usually have 16. And then I think after that 11, one ended up having to transfer early, just because our season got pushed back to the spring that year. So it was it was ridiculous. But I mean, I think going forward now, it's definitely like kind of put into perspective, like, the what kind of kids you really want part of your program. Me and my assistant coach kind of have a saying that we recruit the person and train the player. So that's number one. What we look for is, what kind of person are they? What kind of teammate are they? Are they someone that's going to go up and help like a sophomore that maybe just made a mistake, or are they going to scoff it off? And, because we want that person.
That wouldn't happen. That wouldn't have been me if I was in. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, this is a true story. This is my favorite thing to tell some people. We recruited one girl. I mean, obviously she could play the game, but we were watching her play at a tournament, and she was a senior obviously at that point, and there was an underclassman, I don't know, freshman, sophomore. It was her time to line judge or whatever. And she was like, you could visually tell she was nervous. Like she didn't want to do it. She had no idea what she was doing. And the girl that we eventually did recruit and is now on our team just went up to her and said, hey, I can do that for you. Like, don't worry about it. And you don't see that a lot of like seniors that, especially at a tournament, nobody wants to judge. Nobody wants to lie and judge. But for her to go up and just say like, hey, I got you. Like that's the type of people we want on our team. So I think, like I said, just kind of getting to know players. You can tell really quickly, like the players that have a passion for volleyball and the players that maybe are just doing it because they feel like they have to, or their parents are pushing them, or, maybe they just want some money, which is fine. I mean, everybody, I would love some more money every chance I get. But you can also tell like the ones that are genuinely here because they just have a passion for volleyball, or they have a passion for competing and they just want to continue. So, I don't know if that really answered your question or not.
No, it did. Yeah, it did. Actually, one of my questions I have that I really want to ask you, because you are actually my first junior college coach. Obviously, you're going to 4-year school next year. But how do you? This is a question related to your recruiting. You're recruiting for 2 years. You're not recruiting for 4 years, right? Obviously, I know your goal. I'm assuming, and this maybe is dumb, but I'm assuming, according to what you said earlier about how you want another coach after you, your goal is to get girls from the 2-year school to a 4-year school, right? For whatever their reasons are, whether it's their academics or that's just where they are, whatever it is, right? Everybody has their reasons why they go 2-year versus 4-year, whatever it is. How is recruiting for a 2-year, something that you have found Is it difficult to recruit for 2 years? I know next year going 4 years, so it might be different, but is it difficult for you to recruit for a 2-year school and find success doing that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just kind of different. A lot of the athletes that I've had, and again, this is my 5th year with BSC, so I've probably had, maybe 70, 80 athletes so far. But the one thing that I think I find with BSC, and maybe this is just up in the area that we're in the world, but they're a lot more focused on their academics than the athletics. And I don't say that in a negative way. That's definitely a positive. Like they're looking for schools that are gonna push them academically, and if they can play volleyball, and that's that's kind of just bonus.
Right.
So I've had more girls that have been offered to play at a 4-year after this that have turned it down just because they're so focused on their academic goals. So I mean, it's kind of crazy. Like and I'm trying to say this positively, but the type of player we get up here is very. I mean, they're athletic, they can play, they're awesome teammates, they're good volleyball players. But at the end of the day, they're looking at the bigger picture than just like where's the next school I can play volleyball at type of thing. And that's nothing against that do go on to play in the 4-year. Most of those guys have their academics and their athletics kind of just line up nicely. But yeah, I think so. Going back to, is it difficult to find them? It's not really too difficult because BSC offers a bunch of 2-year transfer degrees, and we're in the process of making more bachelor programs. So yeah, if the girls are in a certain program, they can come here and then transfer out. Nursing is a big thing that we have up here now. So we've found a lot of nurses or students that are going into nursing that also play volleyball. So yeah, I mean, it's definitely different than like a 4-year because you're looking for that. Maybe those girls aren't even going to play for the first 2 or 3 years. Whereas here, we're kind of just I don't know. I'll say a stepping stone, but we're more than a stepping stone. But we're kind of we're a trampoline. I'm going to say a trampoline.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah. It's one of those things too. I actually have 2 things to go off of that. Both are just comments. Is go back to what you mentioned about the academics part. They take the student part first. They take that more serious than the athlete part. Not in a negative, but they actually are students before athletes. So I understand that part. But then, like, just to go back what you just said now, yeah, I mean, I don't know necessarily 4-year colleges. I know everybody has their preferences, right? Some want to get them right out of high school and develop them, and some prefer to go to the JUCO level to get their people because they were as you said, the stepping stone or trampoline. It's a true middle ground to where it's a little bit, which I guess I shouldn't say this because I don't know necessarily college volleyball like that, but it's still a little bit faster, a little bit more physical, a little bit more of that college feel than high school is, right? Just on like the natural that everybody there's a college athlete. But
for sure.
But at the same time, they're still going to be in a little bit better place, quote unquote, than they would be if they just came out of high school, right? Like they have some experience, they have some play time, they see the game a little bit differently, a little bit faster, whatever it is. So it's a little bit easier transition maybe for them to go play right away when they get to that 4-year school, or that in today's world it could be another 4 years, right? 6-year seniors and stuff. But the idea is that you have that little bit that. I understand that trampoline is a very, very good term, and I know some colleges prefer JUCO girls and guys, and some don't. So I think it just depends on where they are. So I really appreciate that. That's awesome. Now that you've been a coach for all this time, right? I know you said like 16 years from the jump, from when you first started to where you're at now. What do you love about coaching, and what do you dislike about it? Is there anything that you dislike, or do you just love it all?
Yeah, I mean, I love not just volleyball, but and not just like the girls that I work with, but like I think my passion in life, because I did a stint where I was a personal trainer too, and I did, fitness stuff. I just love seeing people like work for something and then like have it pay off. I think that's where I
Right.
kind of get really excited. And I mean, I think that's kind of how I like parent my kids too. Like I want them to work hard. I want them to, not get stuff handed to them. My wife always teases me because, I coach my daughter's elementary volleyball, and I usually throw away those participation ribbons. Like I don't even hand them out. And, a lot of people are like, why wouldn't you hand them out? But I mean, that's not really what drives, like just being there is not what drives me. What drives me is like
Yeah.
seeing the girls, whether they're a first grader or, a sophomore in college, like work for something, and then have it finally pay off. And, whether that's a certain skill or, winning a certain match or, maybe just getting a serve over the net. I don't know, whatever it is, that's the biggest thing I think that drives me to coach is just seeing that, just kind of that work ethic.
That progress. Yeah.
Yeah. We run a club in Bismarck here, and 80% of our club is just skill training, just helping kids learn the skills, learn the technique, learn the fundamentals. And that's, I mean, I love it. I just love, like helping, like a fourth grader that can't get the ball over the net, work hard. And then all of a sudden one day it just clicks and you can just see like the joy that it brings.
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest thing. The one thing I hate saying no to kids that send in, like recruiting forms. I usually like take like 3 days out of the year and I just do that for like hours, because literally it depresses me, because, these kids are looking to play somewhere and I'm the bad guy that has to say like, I'm sorry, but, like we don't have room or we don't have a position for you. So I would say that's the one thing that I hate the most. That and losing. I hate losing, but
Yeah. Which is, the rejection letters. That's interesting. You're the first coach I've talked to actually ever to talk about that, and I think that's a very interesting piece, because I was that kid, right? Like I sent out hundreds of stuff to coaches whenever I was, as junior, senior, sending it out, and after all that, I mean, you at least are telling people we don't have room for you, but most of mine just kind of went ignored, I'm assuming. So it's interesting that you say that, and I know that's probably very hard to do just based off of the person. It sounds like the person you are. You're here for the sport, and just sometimes you don't have it. 16 girls out of, if you're doing that for hours, you're probably getting hundreds of things kind of throughout the year. So I can appreciate that that's a hard thing for you to do, and I don't know how I'd feel if it was like that's an easy thing for you to do, because you're literally, just me, like I want my kids to go, but if he wants to go to Harvard and they send him, sorry, you don't have whatever, like that's going to crush him. So like as a parent, I understand how hard that can be for you to turn some people down. I'm assuming on the other side of it, though, when you find your person and they say yes to your offer, or they say, hey, we'd love you to come play for us and be a part of our program, I'm assuming that's, the complete opposite. I bet that's all joy and level of excitement that you have.
Yeah. And again, I mean, I used to get like super stressed out about this stuff. Like if someone wouldn't email me back or text me back for like a couple of days, I got like super stressed out just, right away in my first couple of years. And, just kind of like through what I talked to you about in the beginning, like just kind of relying a lot on God and my faith. It's like God kind of has a plan for who needs to be where and when. And, so if there's kids that are supposed to be here, somehow that's going to work out. And if they're not supposed to be here, then that's going to work out too. So I think that's been definitely something that I've kind of fallen back on, and kind of like, all right, if it's, I don't need to be texting this girl, like twice a week. Like if she's supposed to come here, it's going to happen. If she's not, somebody else is going to take her spot. So, and that's, right. I've seen that, like, there's been a couple of girls that I've reached out to that we really want, because they were really good players. And they decided to go on to other places. And so we filled our roster with, the next person. and that person is now like in our top 5, digs per set leaderboard right now because they just have that passion. So, yeah, I think
it comes out in the wash
definitely
at the end of it.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, I got you. Okay, heck yeah. So now to dive in a little bit more about your successes. You've even though you've been coaching I know you've been coaching for 16 years, and I know you're been at this particular institution for the last 4 or 5. You found success pretty quick. I know that your first year you were, that 13 games over 500, and the next year you were 21 over 500. Then the next year you made, NCAA or JUCO national qualifier. I mean, kind of just talk a little bit about these. I mean, that's a really, really good, to go from high school and really club ball and where you were to jump into any collegiate level, but to go straight into college and find success is really, really hard to do.
Yeah, I mean, I think, I think it takes a lot of people. Like the previous coach, Jenny Walsh, that was here. I mean, she left, some really good players that we got right away that helped with success. I have 2 assistant coaches, and they're both awesome. My one assistant coach, we joke that we're the yin and the yang. She's really good at stuff I'm not very good at. So anything that, maybe I'm not a very good coach at, I mean, she picks up the slack. So we have a really good relationship. But I mean, it just comes down like we find like just really good athletic players, and that buy into the program. And, as long as I don't get in their way, they're the ones that have the success. And, I'm just kind of there to play my little part, more of a manager, I think, than really anything else. I mean, I kind of just do my thing, and they're the ones that play the game. So, obviously, without the players, we wouldn't have any success. And, without my assistants, it'd be a lot harder.
And the success that your program and obviously the girls found on the court led to you getting 3-time coach of the year for Mondac is your conference, right? I believe. And then you have your region 13 coach of the year, and then you have your Northwest District Plains coach of the year. That's very good feats. I mean, I'm assuming it's going to play a factor into, like you said, good athletes and good coaches. But I mean, how did those feel to get being so new to collegiate coaching? And then, what went into those? Is that something you strive for, or is that just because, you just happen to be the right place at the right time? I mean, dive into those a little bit.
I mean, yeah, I think it's like you said, I guess, right place, right time. I don't really do much different up here at the college level than I did in high school. I mean, I still try and plan the best practice I can, depending on what we need, and try and scout the opponents, as much as I can, and just kind of give my players the tools they need. So I guess it's definitely. I mean, I think any coach that goes into the season saying like I want here is maybe not coaching for the right reasons. I mean, obviously you want to strive for that because that means you have success. But I think for me, that's just kind of like, icing on the cake or sprinkles on the ice cream, I guess. I don't know. It's just something that comes with it. That's cool to have, but ultimately it's like, my players are the ones diving on the floor, getting balls up and getting up at 6, 7 to go to the weight room and work on that stuff. And so, yeah, I think it's just kind of icing. I'm a pretty vanilla type of person. Like I'm good with just vanilla ice cream. So
yeah,
anything more than that is kind of bonus.
Yeah, no, I understand that. Yeah, I just think it's really cool that you, and like you said, you before off air you mentioned how you were excited to, why I wanted to talk to you, and for me personally, one of the reasons was what went in. I know you just answered it, but not a lot of times do you see a coach. And sometimes, let me take that back. Sometimes you see a coach who's able to jump into the college ranks and do well, but that's because of the last coach's recruiting, right? They left a good foundation of athletes for you to come in and compete with, type of thing. But you've shown it for the last 3 years, 4 years, right, of being successful, and you've had X amount of recruiting classes since then to then go really, like your second or third year there, which is really when all those first girls were probably gone. You took your team to a tournament, right, to the JUCO tournament, which is probably felt amazing to do. So that's what really intrigues me, and I'm actually really excited for this next part of this, is because the philosophy behind some of your stuff, just because it's cool to see, right? It goes to show, and hopefully brings hope to the coaches who are in high school who are looking to jump to that next level, to that they can be successful relatively quick, right? I know it doesn't happen overnight in most cases. Building a culture, which sometimes it's already a good culture, you're just a new coach in it, and sometimes it's a bad culture, you have to transition, whatever it is. A lot of times it doesn't happen overnight, but I like that you were able, your track record here shows hopefully some hope for the college or for the high school guys or girls going to the college ranks, that you can find success right away if you do it right and you have the right coaches around you, the right mentality, things like that. So I'm really excited for this last little piece here. I like to dive into this part here. My motto, whenever I'm coaching wrestling, is to dig deep. So I'm going to have you do the same thing, if you don't mind, which you can be as just so you can be as vanilla as you want. I know you said you like to be vanilla. Be as vanilla as you want on this, or dive as deep as you want into this. It's completely up to you. But this is the part where a lot of coaches, stick around to listen to, because this is the part where they can, obviously there's gems that you've thrown out this entire time, but this is the real part about like how and why type of thing, right? So my first question that I like to ask is, how do you build a successful culture on the level of buy-in and mindset?
Well, first of all, I appreciate all those nice things you said. It's nice to hear. I appreciate it.
Of course.
Honestly, it's not really something that I plan to do. I think it really just goes to the fact that, we tell our players all the time that I'm not more important than you. I'm not higher than you. I have different responsibilities than you, obviously being the coach, but being the coach doesn't give, belittle you or whatever. So I think just them knowing that, like, I'm just part of the team, kind of taking that stigma out where, like, oh, coach is coming, we better, do this. Like, I'm just part of the team. I have different responsibilities. I can't go play, but my responsibilities are making sure that you guys have good grades and making sure that we know where we're eating and,
Right.
game plan or planning practice and stuff. So, my players, they just call me Kyle, and, I'm not, if someone calls me Coach Kyle, it almost is kind of weird almost.
Yeah,
I guess not
right.
weird, but, if somebody comes up and just says, "Hey, coach," I sometimes I don't even respond to that, because I'm so used to just, having more of a relationship where they just say, "Hey, Kyle," something like that. So, I think that's a big part of it, is just kind of like taking away the intimidation factor almost, maybe, that some coaches maybe have, and creating more of a, I don't want to say friendship, but more of just like a
Relaxed. Yeah, you want them to feel comfortable,
almost,
like a family.
or yeah, that's a good way to put it. Like a parent and a kid that, you can talk to us. We're not scary. We're not, we value your opinion. We're not going to get mad if you think that something works better, because sometimes they're right. Like sometimes I'm on the sidelines and I'm like, why aren't you doing this? And then the setter will come up and say, because I saw this or that. And I'm like, hey, you're right. I don't see that stuff. So, but I have like weekly to bi-weekly meetings with my players, just to kind of check in, not even, sometimes we don't even talk volleyball. Sometimes we talk like, how are you missing home? How's that going? I know your sister's playing volleyball. Like, it must suck that you missed some of those games, So I think just kind of being more personable and building relationships, and but also, I mean, at the same time, like I talked to you earlier about how I love seeing growth and it, like I love seeing them excel when they accomplish something. I mean, that's the other part. Like, we also keep them accountable. Like we're not just going to go to practice and, have fun, make a record.
Yeah, right.
We're there to get something accomplished, but we're doing it in a way that's more of a team building rather than get
I like
on the
that.
line.
Yeah. You make it when they lace up, it's business, but at the same time, it's not a, they want to be there. I got you.
Yeah, it's not a job. I mean, they should. There's 4,000 kids on our campus, or I shouldn't say that. There's 4,000 students on our campus, and 16 of them get to play volleyball. Like, why would we make that stressful?
Right.
I don't know. I mean,
I like
obviously,
that.
we're going to push them. We're going to push them to be great or to be the best, the best people they can. But also, like, why am I going to yell at a girl because she can't pass a ball off her arms? I don't know. It just, yeah, that's kind of my thoughts on it.
Right. And obviously, I'm assuming that, I shouldn't say obviously, and it sounds like, you guys have that comfort level to where, whether they're doing well, when they're doing really well, or when they're struggling, those conversations aren't so hard because of the environment and atmosphere that you and your coaching staff have created, or just your team in general have created.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, you're always going to have someone that maybe doesn't see eye to eye with you, and sometimes, there's always one person that maybe isn't going to buy into the culture, but I just recently was talking to a guy, and he brought up this rule of 95, and it's just stuck with me now. It's like, if you can make 95% of the people around you happy, or you can do like 95% good, like the other 5% is always going to be there. You're never going to be 100%
right,
perfect or whatever. But if you can be 95, you're doing pretty good. So,
right. No, I like that a lot. So this isn't really a question off of what the dig deep questions are, but I used to talk about this quote a lot. It was saying, this is going to kind of go to when you first got into college coaching. There's a quote that says, "Comparison is the thief of joy." And the reason I brought that up is because you mentioned that 95%. And for me, that was one of the hardest things, was like comparing what I was doing. And it didn't have to necessarily be in the room, but it was more of like, what are these coaches doing? How well are their kids? Whatever I was comparing myself to, there was times where it was hard for me to sleep at night. I was like, why didn't we do well here whenever we have more talent than these guys, or whatever, right? So did you ever find yourself comparing yourself or your program to other programs, either regionally, locally, nationally, whenever really, I guess you didn't really need to do so, but did you ever find, I guess, did that quote ever, play a factor into your coaching whenever, maybe comparing took away some of your joy of doing it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you have no idea. I'll just say this because maybe it'll help another coach out there. But when I first started here, I went through a pretty dark time. It was COVID. The coach before me was super successful. So the stress of like kind of living up to that expectation, and then also like just the whole, everything that everybody was going through with COVID. It was pretty dark for a few months. And thank God my wife is amazing, and she kind of helped me out. But I think that's a huge part of it, is that comparing what if I don't have a good program here? What if what if we lose? What if we are not as good as the previous team? And it didn't help that the previous team went to the national tournament and took fourth at nationals the year before. So that was that was just extra pressure. But yeah, it was not a fun first 6 months or so, I think, being part of it. But then one day I kind of just had this idea of raise the bar. I don't know if you've heard that expression, like raise the bar. And we still keep that expression today, and to us that means like, we don't need to be as good as the number one ranked team in the nation, as long as we're raising our bar every day and we're getting a little bit better, whether it's 10% better or 0.00001% better, whatever that is. That's a success then. And so it took me a while to just kind of like accept that, like, hey, I'm not gonna be just like this other person or whatever, but as long as I can, raise my own bar every day and try and get a little bit better and better, then, that's really ultimately all you can do. And I think it brings stuff into perspective too. Like, we don't have to be that all conference hitter that's hitting 400%.
Right.
We let's just be a little bit better than we were yesterday. And so I think that's kind of how I live my life as a coach, as a parent, as whatever it is just kind of like, let me just
raise the bar every day.
Yeah, let me just improve a little bit here and a little bit there. And, obviously some of my players are like, okay, Coach Kyle, like, raise the bar. And but I mean, ultimately, I think it kind of helps, because if you're like number 16 on the depth chart, what's your motivation to come to practice every day? Like, you're probably not going to get up to that starting lineup. Like, honestly, realistically, you're probably not going to get there because the other girls are working just as hard as you. But if you can get a little bit better than you were yesterday, then that's awesome. So
yeah, for sure. I like that. And that actually kind of rolls into the next question I have is, how do you build a successful program on the level of wins and longevity? And then how do you sustain that? So this question usually plays two factors, right? High school is different than college. But I know you've kind of dug into it a little bit. I know we've kind of talked about this probably in other areas of this conversation. And you've obviously done a really good job of finding success and sustaining it, staying positive, plus 500 every year. So, I mean, how do you build that, especially as a 2-year school and in general, for any coach out there who's listening to this, how do you build that successful program and how do you sustain that on like with wins and longevity?
Yeah. I mean, this is going to seem cliche, but it's just day by day. It was kind of funny. We did our local paper, just did a story on some of our sophomores last week. And, they asked about our region tournament coming up, and, they kind of have the same mentality as I do right now. Like, we don't talk about, like, I mean, obviously, tournament time is a little more, like, you want to be a little more locked in, but right. For the most part, I mean, the same game is the same game. Like, a scrimmage in April is the same game as a tournament game in November. It just depends on how you like go about it. So I think just kind of having a day-to-day mindset, like today I'm focused on how my practice is going to go this afternoon. Tomorrow, I'm focused on that. I'll wait to be focused on our game or our match on Saturday until Saturday.
Right.
So honestly, it's just, and there's some days where the girls laugh at me, but we break it down sometimes, like set by set, point by point, all the way down to like step by step, like literal step your feet this way, that way, one at a time, and just go like one thing at a time. Because I think if you look at it too much of a broad picture, it just becomes overwhelming. And so I think just kind of like focusing on day to day is really like, I don't know.
It does. It's how you get to that. If you're not prepared today in practice, you're not prepared Monday through Friday and doing all the right things, then Saturday is a pointless thing to do, right? It's because you're not going to be able to compete at the best. I wouldn't say pointless, but you're not making the right steps today to be better tomorrow, which then leads to your competition, So yeah, step by step, day by day. I love that too.
I almost joke around with, and it's really not a joke. Like I tell people, like, volleyball is the most simple sport out there. It's literally keep the balloon off the floor. Like, we've all played that game. Keep the balloon off the floor. That's volleyball. Like, there's no different strategy in set 5 than there was in set 1. Maybe you make adjustments based on like what the other team's doing, but it's not like we're running a 2-minute drill. It's not like we have 2 fouls to give.
Right.
It's bases aren't loaded. It's the same game from start to finish. Just, so I, that's kind of how we run our program too. Like, hey, if we can be good at the fundamentals, if we can be good at the basic 4th, 5th, 6th grade stuff that you learned 10 years ago, like, we're going to be a good team. If we can pass, if we can like make solid contact when we're hitting, we're going to be a good team. So I think that's kind of just the sport mentality of coaching it, is like, we don't have to get too high strung about this or that. Like, yeah, it's just, no, I mean, obviously I get stressed about stuff, but it's, it's like you try and just have that mentality day to day is just like, hey, let's just get some work done and then we'll deal with tomorrow.
Yep, cross the bridge when you have to. I understand. Okay, I like that a lot. Yeah, yeah, this is a good one right here. I like this one a lot. I mean this conversation in general. You have to come back on again later, by the way.
Awesome. I'd love to.
I usually say this at the end, but I'll say it right now. There's definitely some things I want to ask about on like the because this is like more of like who you are as a coach and your philosophy. But there's on the second go round of coaches, I'm really going to start asking more of like programming and like how you get your kids and your team ready for big events. You know, kind of like the true deeper stuff, right? That's still important to the idea of coaching and dive in more. So, long story short, I got to have you on at some point again. So, is there any tips or tricks? I wouldn't even say tricks. Is there any tips or advice for new or struggling coaches of any sort, right? It could be first year middle school coach. I know people who are nervous to be a middle school coach right now, all the way up to that, you know, whatever level they are, right? You're going to NAIA next year. Do you have any tips any tips or advice for coaches that are struggling or new coaches?
Well, prepare to be wrong because you're always wrong at some point in the season. You're never, I mean, you're going to do something wrong, whether it's like you screw up a lineup or I don't know, you make a wrong sub. I mean, I've done that at the college ranks. It's like, you're going to do it at some point. You might as well not strive to like never ever do it, but just kind of like, you know, be okay with making mistakes. I mean, the girls make mistakes, or if you're coaching boys volleyball too, the players make mistakes, you know, every game. So don't be scared to make mistakes. But my other thing that I really kind of had to like be okay with is like not everyone's gonna like you. You know,
Right.
Not every parent's gonna like your coaching philosophy. Not every player is gonna like your lineups. You know, that's one thing because I would say I'm a people pleaser in the sense that I just want people to be happy, I guess. Not really in a people pleaser way where I'm going to do everything for everyone, but I want everybody to have fun. I want everybody to enjoy their experience. So I think that's the biggest thing for me is like, you just got to kind of know that you're going to make someone mad at some point.
Right.
It's inevitable. I mean, yeah. And you got to kind of be okay with that. As long as honestly you can like look at yourself and be like, I did that for the right reasons, you know, then I think, or I mean, if you have like an AD that backs you or, you know, like assistant coaches that you're working with, I mean, sometimes you just got to be okay with people being upset with you. And that was something that I kind of struggled with right away.
Right.
But yeah, so I would say those two things for sure. Don't be scared to make a mistake, and you know, don't worry about if one person doesn't like you or something like that.
Yeah. Love it. Well, Coach, or I know you don't like to go by Coach. All right, Kyle. We're on our final question here. This is the most important question. It's the title of the podcast. It's figuring out why you coach. What is your why?
I mean, I think it's evolved, right? I mean, everything kind of evolves. So I think, you know, initially, why I coached was because I like sports. Sports are fun. And that's kind of why I coach. And now it's kind of transitioned to, I think my daughter is a big reason. You know, I was just joking around with her the other day and I was like, I'm so tired. Like, I'm so exhausted. Should I just quit coaching? And of course, my 4-year-old's like, yeah.
Yeah. Right.
My 5th grader is like, no, you're good at it. Why would you quit? So I think just kind of like knowing that she kind of looks at the players as like a role model, and she enjoys my job. Like some kids wouldn't want to go with their parents to their work every day, and you know, she enjoys coming to the games, and she's a big part of why I work so hard, I think. And then also like the players, like I'm here for them. You know, that's my role is being here for them and helping them through stuff. And if volleyball can be a small little, like bus that helps them get from point A to point B, I mean, that's awesome. So I never want a desk job. I never want to go back to
9 to 5
or whatever. Even though some days I look at, like I'll go get groceries one night and be like, wow, what would it be like if I just had a job that I just left at 5 o'clock and wouldn't have to wake up in the morning thinking about or whatever. But I mean, that's what makes it so rewarding too, is those moments too. So
right.
yeah, I think that's the why is for more than me, I guess.
Yeah, I love it. That's a great why, and I'm hoping that there's some coaches out there who's listening to this who not only took some of those gems but also listened to that philosophy and will implement some of that stuff into their daily and their utilize some of that stuff in their programs. I really appreciate you taking the time to jump on here today. I know it was kind of short notice and it just kind of worked out today, but that was a very, very good episode. I'm very, very thankful for it. If you guys are still listening to this episode at this point, make sure, if you guys are watching on YouTube, make sure you guys like and subscribe, hit that notification bell, all the 9 yards. If you guys are on Spotify, PocketCasts, anywhere else, make sure you guys leave a review. Make sure you guys give us a star rating, but whatever you say, make sure you say it with your chest. We love to hear it. Coach, I really appreciate you jumping on today. It was a really good one.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for reaching out. I got to be honest. Like when I first got your email, I was like, is this a scam? Is this like a mass email that I just got involved with? But I was kind of taken aback that I guess that somebody wanted to talk to me for so long. Not even my wife wants to talk to me for that long, I don't think.
Hey, I'm glad I could take her place for today. I'm glad I could be that person for you today. Listen to your talk, because anybody else, they wouldn't care, right? Because who else does? But I wanted to hear. I care. I
appreciate
definitely.
it.
Of course, man. It was really good, and like I said, I really hope that we can get you back on here for the second for episode number 2 with you. I think that there's a lot of really good things that we kind of touched on, but I on that second episode, like I said, I really want to dive into a little bit more of your philosophies and stuff, and maybe next time we get you on, you guys will be transitioning to that 4-year school, and maybe we can kind of touch base on some of the stuff that you're going through in that transition. What your girls are feeling, blah, 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 things like that, just with some of the new legalities and stuff that you're going to be facing. So, but anyways, Coach, I appreciate you jumping on. We'll see you guys next time. Peace.